Morning again, once again, that we are going to start with this chapter number 2. And the major point that we are going to learn today is what the services of operating system. Right now, to give overall look for this view of the operating system is what here this blue box indicates the operating system area, right? The bottom is very bottom is the hardware, very top is the user and the other system program, and this blue area highlights the operating system. Now here in each and every box, right? Here in each and every box indicates you a particular service by the operating system, right? Where in every box represents some operating system services. Now we will go into the details of this each and every one. Now to start with the next, now very basically let me tell you that operating system provides you two sets of the services, right? Now before that again let us clear that what is the service, right? Now this is what the services provided by the operating system, and that too the services provided to the user specifically, right? Now before this let us give me an example of what is a service, right? Let's say you guys are using the internet connection or the SIM card. SIM card in your smartphones could be by the Idea, could be by the Jio, Airtel, and so on. So what we call all these as the service providers, right? And the data pack and the voice calls you are making through this SIM card. This is a service given by those service providers, right? This is a service given by those service providers. So now making a voice call or making a use of that internet data is a service for us. It becomes a service. That is something given by the provider to us, and we are making use of it is what the service. Now in the same case over here, in terms of the operating system gives something to us that we can use. Something which we need to use becomes a service for us, right? So operating system gives something to the user which user can use, it becomes a service for the user. Now operating system has the two sets of the services. One is given to the user and other is given to the operating system itself. Right? So now let us speak about the first set of the services. So among this first set of the services, the service provided by the OS to the user, the first becomes the user interface. Second is your program execution. Third, your IO operation. Fourth, file system manipulation. Next, communication. And next, error detection. Now, making use of, let us explain each one of these in detail. Right? Now, the first service which is provided by the OS to the user is the user interface. Now, the first service is what the user interface. Now, lot many times we have spoke about the user interface that system, the OS has given us. Now, we are quite aware that there are different types of the interfaces, and interface is something which helps user to interact with the system, right? Which helps user to interact with the system. अगर यूजर इंटरफेस नहीं होता तो how could we have interacted with the system? मुझे कोई भी फोल्डर ओपन करना है, how I need to click on somewhere, I need to type in some command. That is what the interface. Typing in some command is interface, clicking somewhere is the interface. Right? This is now we were not aware of it, but it is now a service provided by the operating system to the user as a end user as a end user. So this is one of the very major service provided by the operating system. Now comes the next service, that is your program execution, right? Now next comes the next service, that is your program execution service. Now program execution is what? It is make it a difference that it is not the execution of any C program or a Java program or .NET program. It is the job of those respective compilers, right? Now in normal way, for execution of any program, any software to be executed, we all are aware that that program needs to be copied, needs to be loaded into the main memory for its execution. Right? Who would do that job? Of course, operating system would do this job by default implicitly for the user. Right? One job. Then this program, once executed by those respective compiler, this program needs to be ended, right? Either normally or abnormally, right? Normally, if your program execution has done very well, it will execute, it will end normally. But if your program has got some problem, has got some error, it will end. It will tell you the errors and those parts. Those are different parts. But let's say your program has got say divided by zero error, आपका program end हो जाएगा, but abnormally end हुआ, and even you will not get a fit, right? So that is what who has done that job. Operating system has done it for you. So what the next service provided by the operating system is the program execution. Now the next point comes is what the I/O operations. Again, we have spoke lot many times about the I/O operations. Any of the program which we are running, right? This program not many times need I/O devices. It may need the file systems, right? Now I/O devices in a sense, I have given you example. If your program is for addition of two numbers, enter the first number. Statement gets displayed on the output screen. Your program needs to interact with the output. You would be entering your first number from the keyboard. Your program needs the input device, right? So in all, your program deals with these I/O devices, but your program explicitly do not write anything how to deal with the keyboard and how to deal with the mouse, right? You simply writing enter the number and your program will automatically accept the number. But now who has done this job of dealing with these I/O devices? So operating system by default has done the job of dealing with this I/O devices. That is the drivers. अगर ड्राइवर नहीं होते OS के to deal with this I/O devices, आपका प्रोग्राम आपका जो मैसेज है प्रिंट स्क्रीन और प्रिंट नहीं, और आपका प्रोग्राम कीबोर्ड से कोई वैल्यू इनपुट नहीं करता, राइट? लेट्स से कि आप कहीं पे भी क्लिक कर रहे हो, सो हाउ योर ऑपरेटिंग सिस्टम इज एक्सेप्टिंग दैट क्लिक इवेंट, राइट? So this is what job of the service given by operating system, and that service is I/O operation. That is by default your system is accepting all the inputs from the input devices and displaying the output to the output devices. और at the back end ये काम कौन कर रहा है? Not many times it is done by the drivers, because drivers deal with the I/O devices. Now, for example, in case of Java programming, some Java programming you need to handle the mouse, you need to handle the keyboard. So in those cases, in your program, you explicitly write down कि आपको mouse कैसे handle करना है, आपको keyboard कैसे handle करना है, right? But a normal program में आप ये लिखते नहीं कि मुझे कैसे handle करना है, system automatically इसे handle करती है, right? You need to focus on your program only, not on the I/O devices. So this is what other by default OS ने आपको ये सर्विस दी है, that is why you are able to access it without coding something into your program. अगर OS ने सर्विस नहीं दी रहती तो आपको हर एक प्रोग्राम में लिखना पड़ता कि कीबोर्ड को कैसे एक्सेस करना है, माउस को कैसे एक्सेस करना है, and so on, right? And the next point is what? File system manipulation. Again, lot many cases we need to deal with the files, as if right now I have opened one PPT file for you, right? .ppt file for you. What am I doing? I am dealing with some file, right? आप कोई भी word में लिखते हो या तो कोई आप .cp file सेव करते हो, .java की file सेव करते हो. What are you doing? How do you save your files? How do you save your program? So basically, file entity needs to be there, or file entity why it is there? User needs to store the programs, right? अगर यूजर प्रोग्राम स्टोर नहीं करेगा तो कहाँ पे जाएगा? इतनी सारी बड़ी मेमोरी उसमें खोलना थोड़ी ना करेंगे, right? We need some buckets, right? Bags. So right now we can say file is some bag, some bucket which we need to put our data. Like ये मेरी बैग है, तेरी बैग है, .cp बैग है, .cp बैग है, right? Or how to handle with all those files, right? Now system needs to create a file for you. System needs to delete a file, system needs to manage some permissions to it, right? So backend में system बहुत सारे काम automatically कर देती है for you, and that is what the file system manipulation. To deal with the data, right? To interact with the system, you need the interface, but to deal with the data, you need to store it in somewhere and you need to access it again, right? So do you write कि फाइल मुझे ऐसे स्टोर करनी, तो आप उसके लिए प्रोग्राम थोड़ी ना लिखोगे, मुझे फाइल रीड करनी है, हाउ वुड यू रीड द फाइल, right? So every time बैकएंड में आपको सिर्फ इंटरफेस दिया जाता है, आप क्लिक न्यू पे क्लिक करो, सेव पे क्लिक करो, परमिशन पे राइट क्लिक करो, दिस इज व्हाट इंटरफेस गिवन टू यू। उसके बैकएंड में जो काम चलता है दैट ऑपरेटिंग सिस्टम है, एंड दैट इज व्हाट द फाइल सिस्टम मैनिपुलेशन, राइट। Now next service given by the operating system to the user. We are still continuing the services given by the OS to the user, right? We are dealing with the set of the services given to the user. So the next service given by the OS to the user. User means मेरे जैसा end user जो भी system को directly access कर रहा है, right? Next service becomes the communication. Now communication is what normally processes needs to exchange of the information. Now what processes, we know what is a process. Process is what something is what a program. Program in execution becomes a process. आपने कोई भी प्रोग्राम लिखा है, फाइल है, डोंट टेक की प्रोग्राम इज ऑलवेज अ सी जावा एंड ऑल, राइट। वर्ड की फाइल भी मैंने ओपन की तो सिस्टम के लिए प्रोसेस बन गई, राइट। So something, the data, the file, when it is stored onto the system, it is the program for you, right? और सिस्टम के लिए भी। और जब आपको प्रोग्राम, वो जो भी फाइल है आपको एग्जीक्यूट करनी है, राइट ना, मैंने पावर पॉइंट है ना, मैं वो भी ओपन करके रखी है एंड आई एम रनिंग थ्रू इट, सो व्हाट इट इज बीइंग एग्जीक्यूटेड फॉर द सिस्टम, राइट। कोई सी का प्रोग्राम है, मैंने ओपन कर लिया, मैंने इसे एग्जीक्यूट कर लिया, तो व्हाट, the moment I am calling a file, I am calling a program, and I am opening and I am executing. The moment I am executing, it becomes a process for the system. हमारे लिए कोई मैटर नहीं करता, right? For us, it is always a program. But OS के लिए वो अभी प्रोसेस बन गया, right? अभी OS के लिए राइट नाउ OS के लिए वर्ड का डॉक्यूमेंट भी प्रोसेस है, वो पीपीटी भी प्रोसेस है, बिकॉज मैंने इसे खोला और मैं इसे एग्जीक्यूट कर रही हूँ, right? All these processes needs to exchange the information for X and Y Z reason. Let's say, are you getting that I'm copying some screenshots and pasting into the Word? What I am doing? Webex का कोई तो भी screenshot ले रही हूँ मैं और I'm pasting it into the Word file, right? तो Webex का मेरे PPT का मेरे Word में copy paste हो रहा है, इंफॉर्मेशन वो कॉपी करके सिस्टम कहीं तो भी रख रही है और पेस्ट दूसरी कोई तो भी एप्लीकेशन में कर रही है, कम्युनिकेशन। देयर कुड बी द कम्युनिकेशन ऑफ द प्रोसेसेस from one process to the other process, either on the same system or either over the network with the other, right? The best example of process communication over a network with the other system is the chatting application, right? Nowadays you guys are using it very lessly, but messenger, that is, आप यहाँ से कोई भी आपका मैसेंजर ओपन है आपके सिस्टम 1 पे, आप यहाँ से फाइल डाल रहे हो, अदर सिस्टम पे उसको मैसेंजर में मैसेज मिल रहा है, क्या मैसेंजर chatting application on system 1 is communicating to the chatting application on system 2. What is being done? It is a communication, right? We are writing a program for it, but that many times by default बहुत सारे exchange of the information हो जाते हैं, and which is taken care of this communication service by the operating system. So there are the ways how to communicate the messages. There are two ways that we will see later on, either to the shared memory or to the message passing. We'll see it in detail later on, but these are the two ways to communicate. And the next point is what the error detection. Now this is what the error detection done by the operating system. Now you may thought of error detection as कि मैंने कोई C का प्रोग्राम कंपाइल किया, जावा का प्रोग्राम कंपाइल किया, इसमें एरर दे दिया. That is part of the compiler, not the operating system, right? Compiler is one of the software which जो आपको compile करेगा आपके प्रोग्राम के error देगा, right? In the same way, the normally when we deal with many of the applications, right, while interacting with all those applications, the कुछ तो भी pop-up message आ जाएगा, कुछ तो भी window pop-up होगा, somewhere will be written, it will close your screen, right? Those are the errors messages given by the operating system. For example, you are installing some software. Let's say, for example, you are installing some software. तो आपको विजार्ड आ जाएगा, इट विल से ऑन की क्लिक हियर, क्लिक नेक्स्ट, क्लिक नेक्स्ट, और इंस्टॉलिंग विल बी shown into the program. At some moment of time, some screen will be popped up saying that not memory is not sufficient memory to proceed further to install. Who has given that message? Not that particular software. That message was given by the operating system. तो ऑपरेटिंग सिस्टम ने while installation of that software क्या error detect कर दिया कि मेरे नहीं don't have enough memory to install that particular software, right? So that was the error given by the operating system. So operating system needs to take care of it while dealing with lot many things. While dealing with the lot many things, what could be the different errors? So this is one of the error detected by the operating system. ऐसे आपको सेम से लाइक कि आप ऑफिस क्लोज कर रहे हो, इट विल वर्ड क्लोज कर रहे हो, इट विल पॉप अप मैसेज कि आपको सेव करना है कि नहीं मैसेज, और आपने सेव भी नहीं कर दिया तो कोई तो भी मैसेज आ जाएगा इट्स नॉट सेव्ड, आपको वो नेक्स्ट टाइम चाहिए कि नहीं चाहिए. Lot many messages have been popped up there, right? So again, actually, that would be the example of the MS Office, not with the operating system, but the one previous one was the purely by the operating system. So these are few of the examples of the error detection which is serviced by the operating system and by the OS to the user. Now the other set of the services which is given by the operating system, but to the operating system itself, right? These are the set of the services given by operating system by OS itself. खुद के लिए है, ऑपरेटिंग सिस्टम खुद ये सब यूज करेगी उसके सो एंड सो एक्सपेक्टेड रीजंस के लिए. Out of this, resource allocation is one, second is accounting, protection and security. Now coming to these points again, the first is the resource allocation service given by the operating system. Now, into the example of this resource allocation, lot many times we have seen what is resource. Resource is something that you use for a particular task to do. Right now, I'm taking an online lecture, so the laptop, my internet connection, my headphone has become a resource for me. That if you are writing a note, pen, notebook, book, all becomes a resource for you. The same sense for operating system, what would be resources, right? There are, for example, many types of the resources such as CPU, main memory, file storage, I/O devices could be the resources for the operating system, right? Could become the resources for the operating system. अभी जो भी processes ऑपरेटिंग सिस्टम रन कर रही है, प्रोसेसेस इन द सेंस जो रन हो रहा है वो प्रोसेस है, दैट्स व्हाई आई एम यूजिंग अ वर्ड प्रोसेसेस, राइट? जो रन हो रहा है वो प्रोसेस है ऑपरेटिंग सिस्टम के लिए, और जो रन हो रहा है वो प्रोसेस है, इसीलिए वो प्रोसेस ऑपरेटिंग सिस्टम को रिसोर्स मांग रहा है कि भाई मुझे रिसोर्स दे दो, मुझे काम करना है, राइट? मुझे लिखना है, मुझे पेन दे दो, राइट? मैंने पीपीटी ओपन किया, पीपीटी से कि भाई मुझे मेमोरी चाहिए, मुझे सीपीयू साइकिल चाहिए, मुझे ओपन होना है, राइट? मुझे रन होना है. In that sense, जो भी processes है which are being currently in execution will ask for the resources of the operating system, right? अभी ऑपरेटिंग सिस्टम को डिसाइड करना है कि दो प्रोसेसेस चल रहे हैं, 10 प्रोसेसेस चल रहे हैं, ऑपरेटिंग सिस्टम को तो हर एक को कोई ना कोई रिसोर्स देना पड़ेगा, बट उसे कुछ कभी थॉटफुल से देना पड़ेगा ना. ऐसे किसी को दे बैठेगा, प्रोसेस वन को सब कुछ सामान दे बैठेगा तो प्रोसेस को कैसे एग्जीक्यूट करेगा, राइट? So there has to be some rules and regulations to the operating system. इसी को ऑपरेटिंग सिस्टम डिसाइड करेगा कि भाई मैं रिसोर्स किसे और कैसे दूंगा, राइट? Again that we will deal with all those scheduling algorithms further, but right now what you can think of कि ऑपरेटिंग सिस्टम को रिसोर्स एलोकेट करने पड़ते हैं ऑल दोस प्रोसेसेस के लिए, एंड दैट इज अगेन ये जो सर्विस है ऑपरेटिंग सिस्टम खुद यूज कर रही है, राइट? अगर ऑपरेटिंग सिस्टम के पास ये सर्विस नहीं होती तो ऑपरेटिंग सिस्टम प्रोसेसेस को रिसोर्स कैसे देती, राइट? उसे सीपीयू एलोकेट करना है, कैसे एलोकेट करती, उसे फाइल देनी है, कैसे फाइल देती. बहुत सारे 100-200 फाइल्स पड़े हैं सिस्टम में, राइट? मुझे पीपीटी की फाइल चाहिए, तो ऑपरेटिंग सिस्टम के पास ये सर्विस होनी चाहिए ना, वो सर्विस बोलेगी कि हाँ भाई पीपीटी की फाइल उठा लो, इस प्रोसेस को दे दो. दैट इज व्हाट वन सर्विस दैट ऑपरेटिंग सिस्टम इज यूजिंग. उसका खुद का काम है, अभी रिसोर्स एलोकेट करना यूजर का काम नहीं है, ऑपरेटिंग सिस्टम का काम है. दैट इज व्हाई दिस सर्विस इज बीइंग यूज्ड बाय द ऑपरेटिंग सिस्टम ओनली, right? And hence it has become a service itself. Now next is accounting. Accounting is simply keeping track of which users in OS terminology, which processes are using how much and what kind of resource, how much and what kind of, right? Process how much, मतलब कितने टाइम के लिए क्या क्या यूज कर रहा है, 2 घंटे के लिए सीपीयू यूज कर रहा है, 1 घंटे के लिए मेन मेमोरी यूज कर रहा है. एक्चुअली ऑल दोस टाइम्स आर इन सेकेंड्स एंड माइक्रो, राइट. नाउ अकाउंटिंग का ट्रैक क्यों रखना है, एक्चुअली ओएस ही सारा ट्रैक रखते हैं फॉर कीपिंग सम स्टैटिस्टिक्स विथ इट, कि कौन से प्रोसेसर्स को क्या क्या रिसोर्सेज लगते हैं, कितने टाइम के लिए लगते हैं, राइट. और जब ये सारे रिसोर्सेज यूज करो तो सिस्टम कैसे परफॉर्म करते हैं. Further, this information, this statistics will be used by the system to improve some performance. कि इसे अगर ऐसे रिसोर्सेज दिया जाए तो इसी तरह सिस्टम परफॉर्म करेगी, हम लोग अगर ये रिसोर्सेज ऐसे डिफर करेंगे तो सिस्टम ऐसे परफॉर्म करेगी. Here, system is trying to keep only the statistics information of कौन सी प्रोसेस क्या क्या रिसोर्सेज यूज कर रहे हो, कितने टाइम के लिए यूज कर रहे हो. In real life, the example of it again becomes, let's say you have a postpaid of Idea, let's say Airtel, right? आपका postpaid है तो आपको बिलिंग कैसे आता है, बिलिंग would be charged as per the usage by you. आप कितना डेटा पैक यूज कर रहे हो, आप कितना वॉइस यूज कर रहे हो, आजकल यूज कर रहे हो, based on the usage, based on the usage, that is the time. आप डेटा पैक what kind of resource आप रिसोर्स यूज कर रहे हो, डेटा पैक for how much time, right? Based on that आपको वो अकाउंटिंग कीप करता है. अगर उसने अकाउंटिंग ही कीप नहीं करेगा तो बिल कैसे देगा सारे सारे यूजर्स को, राइट. इन द सेम वे सिस्टम भी अकाउंटिंग कीप करती है. And the last point is what protection and the security. Again, to make it different, that protection and security, this is the first level of the protection and security given provided by the operating system, right? Normally, if protection and security comes to the mind, we may think of let's say firewall, let's say antiviruses. Those all are the add-ons, top up है वो add additional securities हम लोग डाल रहे system पे. So we could call them as the top up, right? So these are the basic things provided by the system OS to us. One is the protection and second is the security. Now protection is what? It gives you controlled access to the resources. कंट्रोल्ड एक्सेस, फॉर एग्जांपल आप कोई फोल्डर लॉक करके रख सकते हो, आप कोई फाइल लॉक करके रख सकते हो. व्हाट आर यू डूइंग, आप कंट्रोल कर रहे हो एक्सेस को, राइट. दिस इज वन वे ऑफ द प्रोटेक्शन. एंड सिक्योरिटी, आपके सिस्टम को एक लोकल यूजर नेम होता है, लोकल लॉगिन क्रेडेंशियल्स रहते हैं. एवरी सिस्टम हैज गॉट एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन credentials. Credentials are nothing but your username and the password, and it even has a username and the password. आप अकाउंट क्रिएट कर सकते हैं आपके सिस्टम पे. फॉर एग्जांपल लेट्स से आपके सिस्टम पे एक ही अकाउंट है और आप लॉग इन करके सिस्टम को एक्सेस कर रहे हैं. दिस इज वेरी फर्स्ट लेवल ऑफ द सिक्योरिटी. वी डोंट थिंक इट्स सिक्योरिटी बट स्टिल इट इज. अगर आपके सिस्टम का लॉग इन पासवर्ड जिसे पता है वही वो सिस्टम यूज कर सकता है, दूसरा कोई यूज नहीं कर सकता until and unless he knows the ID and the password to log in into the system. So this is actually the one way of the security and the protection provided by the system, right? So these three are the services provided by the operating system itself. One is resource allocation, second is accounting, and third one is the protection and security. With this, we have done with services provided by the operating system, and we have seen services provided by the operating system to the user. These are the sets of the services which OS provides to the user, and we have seen the second set of the services provided by the OS to the OS itself. With this, we have done with the services of